Hi, my name is Alyssa Carson. I am a white woman with dark brown hair, wearing a blue flight suit that looks kind of like a pilot suit with a patch with my name on it. And I am 22 years old. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My favorite food would probably be crawfish since I'm from Louisiana, but I'm also a really big sushi person as well. A fun fact about me is that I played competitive soccer for 10 years. An inspirational quote I think that I really try to embrace in my day-to-day life is to never let anyone take your dreams away from you, just because it's hard to have big dreams and all the outside noise on yourself. So it's really important to remember that if you want it, you can accomplish it without all that other noise kind of preventing you from getting there. So ever since I was a little girl, I've always been interested in space and the idea of working in the space industry. So I've been getting involved with any and all citizen science research or doing any other programs to begin building a resume to one day apply. So I went to college and graduated with a degree in astrobiology, and now I'm also currently working on a PhD in space and planetary science to be involved with some of the scientific research that happens for some of the future lunar and also Mars missions. My main focus is dealing with life, so I study bacteria and see if we could find life elsewhere, potentially on Mars. We're trying to figure it out. So that is my realm of science within the space industry. So I was interested in space when I was really young. I remember going and asking my dad all these questions like, have people been to space before? You know, is space even real? And so I kind of had all these just goofy questions, but no one in my family had any sort of space or science background. And then we've tried to pinpoint it to like one moment that actually sparked all these questions, because it was very bizarre because we never really talked about space in the house. But really, our best guess is that it could have been an episode of The Backyardigans, which was a cartoon that was on Nickelodeon when I was a kid. They had a Mission to Mars episode where they pretended to travel to Mars and do research and stuff. So that's really our best guess as to what sparked some of those questions. But to be honest, we don't know exactly, but it was perhaps The Backyardigans. The first steps I really took was going to my local library, getting books and posters and videos and all this information about space, just because, like I said, no one in my family really had any background in space and didn't really have anything to teach me. And so I started going to those sort of resources. I started asking my teachers, to really help my interest in math and science, and asking if they had anything else to kind of help me learn a little bit. But I was always trying to do different hands-on activities, because I know I liked space, but I had no idea what within space I liked. I could be an engineer, a scientist, I could, do any wave of specific work within space. And so I was really trying to figure out what I liked the most. So growing up, I was all sorts of hands-on. I joined like the little robotics team at my school just to see if I would like it, just to see if that would be an avenue. I always had space in the back of my head, but I still tried all these different avenues just to see, okay, what do I like the most? Because I really didn't know, and I couldn't really tell without physically doing it. I was a very hands-on kid, and so I was always just dipping my toe in all these different projects because I was really trying to figure out what I was most interested in. And by doing that, I fell into, a citizen science research organization called IIAS, and I still work with them today, which that was also really awesome because I was able to learn different areas of space, but also go out and do research with them, and that was working with spacesuits or microgravity flights, and able to really get a feel of the different areas of space that I would be most interested in. And eventually found my way into astrobiology and found out about it through someone that I met at a panel, and that has been that, and I've loved it pretty much ever since, and continued to work on my direct research focus actually within astrobiology. So you're always learning and figuring something out about yourself, and so I would definitely say that's what I did, and I think that's kind of one of the best things to do is just try, figure out what you like, and if you don't like it, switch to the next and keep going down that road. I think some of my main motivations have one kind of always been my passion for space. And it's always been very interesting because I liked space when I was younger, but the more I learned about space, the more I became even more passionate about it. I really just wanted to give back to the space industry. The more I was able to learn, what the space industry gives us, the amount of technology and knowledge. And, it's really common to think of space as us just like sending things out into space and then we never see it again. But really, everything that we do up there comes back down to Earth and helps everything here on Earth. And so the more I was able to learn about it, I really just wanted to contribute to that in some way. And so that's why I was always trying to figure out what I would be best in, because I wanted to find that one thing that I'd be really good in that would help contribute the most. So that's really been my biggest motivation, and also just continuing to teach kids about some of these, non-traditional jobs that there are in the world. We think of space always as math and science jobs, where psychology is huge in the space industry, or the people that have to figure out how we send food to space, or designing spacesuits. All these different jobs aren't as math or science focused, and so I think it's really important that we kind of break down some of these really complicated jobs, because they seem intimidating and then it seems like too much work or too hard to go into them, but really they're possible for anyone who has that interest, and so it's important for them to know that they can get there. So really the next steps for my journey is continuing with school. So I am starting my PhD program this fall. So it will be a little bit of a lengthy journey to get the PhD, but it's probably about 5 years working on my research and writing a dissertation and everything. But that's really my next few steps. So primarily working on that. My research focus will be actually testing a species of bacteria called methanogens, and putting them through different stressors that are similar to the conditions on Mars, and seeing how they react to really see if it's possible that they could be living there. So that'll kind of be my realm for the next little while. But after that, it's really just kind of waiting for the next astronaut selection process to open up. I would love to apply in the next selection process and then go from there, and eventually work. Research is really my big interest at the moment, so even after the PhD program, I would likely just work for a space company still doing research or working and doing lab work. I think within space, there has been a push for, the last few years getting more women involved in the space industry. Typically, if you look at some of the more recent astronaut selection processes, they've been more half women, half male. So that's been really good to see. But, one of the biggest factors about the space industry is that we really only see, like the astronauts that go to space, or some of these, people that are televised. And it's so interesting because it takes tens of thousands of people to send that one astronaut into space. And it's really important that we're creating that diversity and inclusion of women across all those jobs. Because just because there's a female astronaut, but it was 90% males working on the rocket and the spacesuit and all the other components, I don't think that's necessarily an entire success. And so I think it's really important that we continue to not only, boast about some of these astronaut figures, but also just all the STEM jobs that are involved. And, it's been really amazing to see more and more women getting involved and working in these STEM fields. And I really hope it just continues to go in that direction. And seeing more girls get interested in space and STEM has been really exciting for me. I love telling girls about all the different things they can do, because, again, a lot of the time they don't really realize all the jobs that they could go into. They maybe think, it's just an engineer. I was a young girl, I didn't want to be an engineer either, but I'm still working a STEM job. And so I can kind of see that perspective of, we really think the space industry goes in one direction when really it can go in all sorts of directions that you can really love. So I love being able to teach that, and also see other young girls get that interest and want to pursue their own dreams within STEM, no matter what the path may be. Yeah, I think that kind of going back to, my roots, I was really just raised by my dad. So it was just me and my dad, was like the whole family. And then we were just kind of like a tag team to do things together. And I think that had a big impact. I was doing things with him. So I feel like I also grew up very quickly by being like an only child and being with my dad. And I think in that way I was super eager, but I also got a lot of attention, which I guess also helped. But it was really awesome to just kind of have the fact that my dad was supportive of my interests and my dreams and wanting to help support it in any way that he could, even if he did not understand space at all, because it took him a while to really pick up on some of the things. But it was really, really fun to kind of have that bond, though, between the two of us, where we could travel, do things that were really interesting to me for space, and kind of have that flexibility to do that. So that really had a really big impact on going about my dream, and I definitely would not be where I am without his support and all his help in traveling with me. And so I think that made a big difference. And then I think it also helped a lot with me wanting to share a little bit of my story and share that to other young kids in whatever their situations may be, and kind of help inspire them that despite those situations, figuring out ways or working out ways to even the smallest things to start getting towards those dreams that they may have, even if it is just telling a teacher, hey, I'm interested in this, or start communicating some of those ideas, because you really never know where the opportunities may come from. So I have done a good bit of travel, both in speaking, but also some of the different research campaigns I've done. Some of the research stuff that we've done have been over in Iceland or up in Canada, and so that's been really exciting, especially to see kind of the space industry on a global scale is very, very fascinating. It is really interesting to see what different space agencies are doing in different countries, or different projects, different companies, what they're working on. And I think space is something that really unifies us as people. It's something that we all can kind of have like a common goal for. And I think that that is really, really important, because we can look up at these big goals and kind of unify. And so it's been really exciting to see some of the new projects within space really have more of a global impact. So that's been really cool. And then also speaking as well. I also love traveling and just speaking to different groups of people, and also sharing some of the opportunities, because a lot of times when people think space, they only think NASA. And I love being able to share with also kids in other countries what their own country has as far as resources for different space programs, because they may not think of that, because when we think space, we think of NASA, but there are loads of companies. NASA has loads of contractors and other companies working under them. So it's important to keep those in mind too. And then also what's actually happening where they are. I think I wish adults really had a perspective on how teenagers see the world, or really just the change that there is in how teenagers see the world. I think a lot of the time as adults, we can really just only see things from one perspective of how it was when they were younger. And, a lot of that comes with some of like the social media, or how interconnected teenagers are now with the internet and those sorts of connections, because it is really a whole new world with that age of social media. But there are a lot of benefits to it. And so I think it's kind of hard to see both ways. I think one of the biggest benefits of, today and for young kids today is that they can have access to see what some of these jobs look like. I mean, even just through social media, they can see someone doing their dream job and seeing what they do on a day-to-day basis, see how they do it, really get a good idea of, oh, would I also like to do that? But then also see other types of jobs to see if those are more interesting, and they can really get some of that inside perspective on some of these career paths, or, even reaching out to them. I think that is insane that, someone could see an engineer or a scientist or a researcher or anyone like that posting on the internet and ask them, hey, how did you get there? Do you have any resources or contacts for me? And I think that's really huge, that connection is able to be made. And so I think it's kind of encouraging some of that, encouraging the use of the internet in those positive ways, because there is a lot of good that can come out of it.